本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Friday, June 11th, and you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 320. I'm here. E3 is behind us in an alternate dimension. Yesterday would have been the last day of E3. I'm your host, Austin Walker, and joining me today from our non-E3 midweek whatever breakdown, Ricardo Contreras is here, as always.
Faux3. It's the first day of Faux3.
Faux3. It's actually we're recording this on, I'd say, the second or third day of Faux3, I guess. Like, I feel like...
Well, Sony's conference usually concludes everything, right?
That's true. So would this be like day zero?
Day zero of...
But we haven't had EA yet. We haven't had anything from Microsoft yet. We don't have Nintendo yet.
Right. That's why it
Nintendo
feels
is like day one.
E3 2020, Forbidden
ones.
West.
The Forbidden West. The Forbidden West. Also, you hear the voice of Gita Jackson.
Hello, I'm here. I'm Gita.
And I think in a contemplative mood, stroking his beard like an ancient sage, Rob Zachney.
Rob, thinking about where can I find the next Neil Druckmann profile to read.
Oh my fucking god!
You know that one Amazon
don't
just
keep talking. We don't have time. I just wanted to.
Fuck.
You know, if you're a
that
press
energy out
handler
there.
and you're on a press tour,
Yeah.
and you hear someone saying something like, "So I saw this lynching this one time." Just let him keep going.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
lean back, crack that beer open.
Legit, almost had a spit take with beer, which would have been incredible. Which was
Well, 'cause it immediately made me think of I saw something going on Twitter a day or two ago that was like one of those conservative shitbags, Matt Walsh, that said like, so slavery was bad, but
Nothing good comes after that, but
it's unbelievable. Anyway, we'll talk about Last of Us 2 a little later in the show. But to kick things off, we're going to talk about today's PlayStation 5 game reveal event. Obviously, the PS5 itself had been revealed in lesser form. Had been announced in lesser form previously. There was that Mark Cerny talk. There was some other feature at some point, right?
Two wired pieces.
Right, the wire pieces. But today they did like a little over an hour of kind of just game trailer after game trailer. They revealed the box. They showed what the console looks like. No price, no launch date. A range of games that were either with dates unannounced, with 2021 dates, 2022 dates, and then some holiday 2020 stuff, I think, mixed in there. I think it's fair to say that we got the sort of event that I think a lot of people talk about wanting from their E3 game events. Just show us games. It was 70 minutes, I'd say, of a bunch of different games. I've written the full list down here, and I know that y'all put up a post on the site collecting everything. So if you missed anything, you can go to waypoint.vice.com and go look up all of the trailers and stuff there. But at a high level, I'm just curious how people felt about that event when it was all said and done. Does anyone have a really strong feeling about it? Or are we all just like, that was an event? Right?
I think to your point about show us the games, I think a lot of us had said that at times. And so Sony did just show us the games. And it turns out I thought I wanted that.
Yeah, well.
yeah.
I'm not so sure anymore. Gita, like you and I were talking a little bit about, as we were building the post, like it was just kind of an aesthetic avalanche.
Yes.
But for at least the first half of that, before they started bringing out the heavyweights at the end, for a good portion of that, I was just like, okay, but what do you do? What is this? What's it about? And I couldn't fathom it.
I was floundering for about half an hour, really just drowning in game trailers, not really getting anything I felt like I could just sink my teeth into. I felt like there was a small moment of respite when they dug into the Ratchet and Clank and tried to show off the gameplay, but it was such a breakneck pace, and there's so many that I feel like there's so many, and they all felt very familiar in a lot of ways. Like, not just familiar, video games all give you the same video game vibes, but like familiar in like they're bringing back really, really old shit, and like really, really pandering towards a particular kind of audience. It felt like at times, like people who really vibe with old school PlayStation games, which is like a thing that's coming back around. Nostalgia for those eras are coming back. But it left me feeling like it was very out of touch with the spirit of the times. It left me feeling like a lot of this was planned way before any of this shit happened. And now the vibe just feels mad weird.
I definitely, I thought I would be the person here with the biggest bummer vibe, and the most kind of general disinterest. The thing that I have to admit to myself about an event like this is I think it was successful at what it was trying to do, which was to get the people who are excited about just what are the new games that are coming. What does the new hardware look like? Let me see what that looks like in action. And much less for someone like me who generally likes to see systems interact, who generally likes to see substantive gameplay portions. And it's like I want to hold that part of my negative response separate from the sort of industry analysis response. My guess is that this will show that will have shown well to a huge amount of people. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with that. Patrick,
well, normally at E3, it would be we'd watch this and then you'd go see that lengthy presentation at some appointment, and then there would be a YouTube video that's like here's 6 minutes from the game with a developer breaking down like a vertical slice. I think the thing that was missing for me here, and I think it's them holding back, not because it doesn't exist. Is often what's exciting about a new console is the chance for like new worlds, new ideas. And a lot of this was a very familiar, even if it was slick looking versions of familiar things. You kept waiting for what's the brand new thing that I was, that the reason you wait to do this at the start of a new generation is so you can make 2 or 3 sequels to it over the course of 6 or 7 years. And there just really wasn't much of that outside of, maybe the Capcom game that for a while I was like, yo, is this Vanquish 2? And it wasn't. But it definitely had some Vanquish vibes.
Pragmata, is that?
Yeah, Pragmata.
Yeah, Pragmata. But again, like I don't know what that game is, right? Like, and I can shower myself in vibes anytime. It's 2020. I can go on YouTube and be like, yo, show me some concept art. Show me some cool CG shit.
The games that showed gameplay were like some of the, like, it was the Housemarque game, which didn't look particularly interesting.
What's that game called? That game is called
Returnal.
Oh my god! I did bark out an unwilling laugh at the name Returnal. For some reason, it just reads like read immediately in my brain as. No, never mind.
Go ahead.
It was. It just. I feel like I'm a little bit dyslexic, and some of those letters got mixed around when I was reading it for the first time. So
I think the Housemarque thing is a really interesting thing for. In general, maybe here's the thing worth saying is I think there's a lot of small stories or small, like you can do the Olympic style profile, like 7-minute profile vid on each of these games. Like what's the story behind these things? And so for Returnal, a game with a name I don't like very much, the story for Housemarque is this is the studio behind things like Super Stardust and Resogun. What was that one? Next Machina or something
the red and
last
blue
year.
Color scheme.
Yeah, they do lots of very arcadey, direct games where there is no vibe besides like electric light and energy and lasers. And they said last year that basically it doesn't work. They can't hit the audiences that they want to. They're going to move away from the pure arcadiness and try to find a different vibe. And what they found was something that to me evoked. Did any of you play the game Echo a couple of years ago? A third-person stealth action, kind of dark sci-fi.
I remember this.
It has that vibe, and then the action starts, and it's absolutely a Housemarque game. You're shooting wild, crazy, purple and green and blue lasers, and there's clearly a bunch of different guns, and that's a really weird mix of like very arcadey weaponry and combat encounters from what you could see with this very serious kind of grim, dark sci-fi, live, die, repeat-esque looping thing. Do we have 2 or 3 games with loops in them today? Was it only 2?
Deathloop.
Because Deathloop is the other one for sure.
Yeah, they didn't show that like top down. Is that another Annapurna one?
That
the top down one,
like 10 seconds or 10
minutes.
This was a different game. Although I thought it was just that game pushed to next gen. The moment that trailer started.
Do we want to go down the list here, or do we want to just go around the table and pull some stuff out that we want to talk about?
We could probably go through like the first half pretty quickly. If
I
you just
think
wanted
so,
to go
too.
Through the
Yeah.
list.
Because what we opened on was a cube. We opened on a cube with buttons inside. The recurring thing all through this presser was, it's not even a presser, but you know what I mean, was showing the PlayStation symbols, showing the triangle, square, circle, and X. And I really wanted a fifth symbol to come out at the end. PlayStation 5, finally we get a fifth face button. It's a star. That didn't happen. And then they opened with a trailer for GTA 4 or GTA 5,
Yeah.
which they're going to sell you again next year. Not even this year, not even end of 2020, 2021. That'll come out on PS5. And I guess it didn't explicitly say we'll sell you this again, but it did say GTA Online would be free to PS5 owners, which to me says if you want to play that campaign, you're paying us money again.
Yeah.
GTA is thoroughly like in its late career. GTA 5 is thoroughly in like its late career arena show stage, where it's just like, oh shit, it's in Rosemont and tickets are only how much? I'll go. That is very much like everyone loves it. Who doesn't love GTA 5? Have you played it before? Do you know it by heart? Yes, to everything. But now you can play it here, and that's good.
Very weird to open up with that. And then after that, actually exciting to me somewhat is the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, which Evan.
We sure that's a full game?
Ooh,
Oh,
the
wait,
dagger!
what?
Patrick Klepek.
That's not. I'm just saying it takes a long time to build these games. That would be relatively a quick turnaround.
2 years, right?
For a game of that scale. All I'm suggesting is the fact that they were saying holiday 2020, which like genuinely surprised me.
It shocked me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also seems like a game that like see you in March 2021.
100%.
Is that maybe it's a bridge game, right? Like, you know, everything about the original Spider-Man by the end suggested a game where you would be splitting between Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and it'd be the like sort of a mentor sort of relationship between the two. And I do wonder if this is sort of like a bridge game where I'm not saying it's going to be 2 hours, but something a little more modest that basically sets up all the events of like the big Spider-Man sequel, you know, that comes
Also,
maybe another 2 years
Spider-Man could have
from
been shorter.
Spider-Man could have been,
Like-
yeah.
Like,
You know what?
Miles Morales being in the Brigmore Witches of Spider-Man, I'm like,
That's not bad.
That's probably the right scale. Yeah.
I mean, most games could be shorter. So, I mean, just...
Yes.
oh, shit, Rob.
God, I'm.
What if the open world were condensed to something like levels, where you do cool things but don't necessarily have a lot of filler to bother with?
You say that, but I've been continuing to play the Order 1886, and let me tell you, that game has levels and a lot of bullshit filler. We'll come back on that on Monday. Rob's
throwing markers down.
Yeah, boom. We'll be back here.
I forgot about you.
Oh, the docs chapter just goes and goes. So yeah, I think you're right. There's a chance that maybe that's a shorter experience. Maybe that's like a little bit of Brooklyn instead of just Manhattan, and then a more focused experience. I will say, if I didn't know Evan was on that project, I would be less excited for it, especially in the current moment. I'm still not sure that it will handle blackness in a way that I'm particularly happy with. We'll
also,
see.
Peter
I hope it
Parker's
does.
relationship to the cops in the first game feels even stranger now.
Bro.
Yeah. Wowee.
Wowie zowie.
He just really wants a badge.
Like, and
Look,
specifically,
Peter Parker out here just installing,
Mass
towers
surveillance.
that are going to
Yeah.
just spy on people in the city and just, that's in a collectible.
Peter, we saw somebody exercising the First Amendment rights. Can you follow them across rooftops and find out where they live?
Absolutely, Officer Krupski.
Oh no.
Fuck. All right, next up, after
Patrick's literally ruining one of the few moments of joy.
I know.
You know what? Look, Evan is a cog in a larger machine. But I think
He's more than
I
that
would
too, but
I would hope
yes.
I would hope that game would the level at which it can address it. I don't know, but it seems it would seem weird to make that game and not have that be not necessarily like the entire thematic trapping, but to avoid that topic entirely would be strange.
It'd be a big misstep, and it would be it's a great reminder that you can have going into it, it's important to remember that you can have really talented, diverse voices on a project without them necessarily being able to call the shots all the way.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh. Gita, it sounded like you may have had a little bit more there.
Well, I mean, it's just like sort of reminiscent of the broader problem with this whole thing is that it just does feel like a lot of these things are weird things to be talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a little different for the two of us. I mean, it's and like Cado, like just living in this city is a very intense experience right now. So it was difficult to take it seriously. Marches have come down my street twice, and there's a bunch of actions happening all the time, and it's not like I'm trying to say, oh, video games don't matter. I'm trying to find a kernel of the current in what I am looking at, and what I see is a presentation that feels lifted outside of time.
Right.
So I think one of the things, I definitely had this feeling in the first half when I was kind of like, what is this presentation? I don't know, I'm probably overanalyzing it in light of current events, but it definitely did feel like there was a vibe here. PlayStation 5, let us return to a place of childlike innocence and play divorced from the world's problems. Like, there was a lot of Pixar-looking stuff here.
Yeah. I remember at the time I was saying you that there was a real whimsy vibe throughout, especially that first half, where it's light, lots of rounded edges and bright colors, and, a huge focus on Ratchet and Clank, which is more cartoony. And the Sackboy is coming back. It felt very not just nostalgic, but like really kind of diverting a huge minefield of political topics that are becoming more and more difficult to not talk about.
At the same time, no offense to Sumo Digital, but I don't know that I want them trying to say anything with their Sackboy game about Black Lives Matter.
Is that who's making that?
I think that there was a Sumo Digital
that's
thing
a
up top. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Listen,
Sumo,
that's not meant to. I'm just saying. I've liked when Media Molecule is done. I've often liked Media Molecule's side projects more than their main stuff because there's so much of the focus on creation, and that's just not my thing.
Sure.
Like Tearaway is like such a deeply underrated game. Like fucking loved Tearaway. It was really great on the Vita. It's totally fine on the PS4. I think when I got ported to that, or maybe that was PS3. But
here's my pitch on Sumo Digital. Ready? They worked on Hitman 2. Like genuinely did work on that game. They worked on Snake Pass, which I know people liked. And the Sonic and AllStars racing games are actually incredible games. And the Disney Infinity games, they're not for me, but they have experience doing platformer, like action platformer stuff.
Yeah,
there's a world in which they could do it.
It looks totally fine.
Yeah, totally.
But that was more or less by take. It was like, this looks fine.
Yeah, totally. Before we get there, though, Rob, how do you like those cars in Gran Turismo?
Hey, you know what? I like those cars quite a bit, my friend. Let me tell you. I was like, what could a Gran Turismo possibly say to, what could it possibly do to catch my attention in 2020 after Project Cars, after several good Forzas? I was like, this feels like pretty well-trodden ground. And then I was like, those cars, though, those reflections. And then they did something really smart, which is they gave us several minutes of just in-car racing, and it looked really freaking good in terms of just the way the cars move, the play of light. Like, as someone who really loves endurance racing, I was like, this looks like it's my kind of racing game. That being said, I don't think that solves the problem of there are now like a half dozen really good high fidelity racing sims out there that are in rotation. Austin, you and I were just talking about Assetto Corsa the other day, right? Which is kind of starting to climb the ranks of serious sims. And so I think Gran Turismo ends up in the place of being, it is the car game for PlayStation diehards, right? It is the most car for the most PlayStation you can get. And that's the pitch. That being said, the cars do look nice.
Yeah, I wrote down Gran Turismo cars. That's all. That's the note. The cars look nice. Yep. They did. Also, Rob, I will drive them. I need you to know that you had extremely big Sports Night Cutman energy when you responded to my question. That's just for us. The next big thing that Gita already just talked about was Ratchet and Clank. Is it called Infinity? Is that the subtitle?
No. A Rift Apart.
A Rift Apart. Why did I wrote Infinity because it reminded me of I don't know why I wrote Infinity there. The thing I wrote was Infinity Spider-Verse because it did remind me of Enter the Spider-Verse with all of like the moving between different Ratchet and Clank universes or planets. Do we think that's an AU or there is a Lady Ratchet? Is that what we think is happening there?
I think it's Lady Ratchet. It seems like featuring Lady Ratchet. Right?
Very
But maybe
colorful.
it's also Spider-Verse and that Ratchet's just dead now, and we're in the Lady Ratchet
We're in the
universe.
Lady Ratchet universe. Could be. Is anyone here a Ratchet and Clank person?
Yeah, those are
Which
one
one's
of
the
those
robot?
where
Clank. What?
Clank.
What?
Come on.
What?
Ray tracing.
I guess
Or
Ratchet's
not ray
that-
tracing, it's reflections, right? They were very excited that things could reflect off of Clank now at some point during that.
Oh, is that
presentation.
true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
those
sure
guys are fine.
what a ray tracing is, and at this point, I think it's too late to ask.
No, it's fair.
You
Might as well
know?
just don't look it up. Just
Dude, I've got
keep
some
saying-
videos for you. Hold on.
No,
It'll
I don't
just
need
in-
to know. I don't
In
need to know.
45 short minutes with Digital Foundry, I think you'll gain a new appreciation for the technology.
Why
just
do you
declare a
wish to
thing a
hurt
ray
me?
trace.
Oh
Just
my
assert it. Just like the ray.
The ray tracing on this
ray
one.
Tracing.
Mwah, I love it. This is sumptuous ray tracing.
If you give me a Ratchet like once every 5 years, like I'm good, and that's basically what they
I
chose
was
to
saying,
do.
isn't that
This time around, it'll be fine. Like I thought it was strange that the first game that you got true gameplay for was that because it didn't seem like the gameplay was like showing anything particularly
It's the old
meaningful. It's just
gameplay.
like, here's like 2 minutes of the game. And I was like, are they just gonna do this for everything? Where it's like introduce game, get like a little slice. It's like, nah, only Ratchet. And that was like one of the only ones where you know, it was one of like the first party games where you got like meaningful looks at like the UI and like what it's going to be like to hold the controller to play it.
There was a thing there where it was like you're teleporting around, but the way that they visualize the teleportation, it looks like you're almost like grappling onto something in the distance and pulling it towards you, which is like a neat effect. And I know that the idea was showing that with all of the different. So for people who didn't see that trailer, you're like at the beginning, the Ratchet and Clank are on like I don't know if they're on a rail or on a ship or what, flying through different almost portals in between different universes, and it's like quickly loading in different assets. And I know that's supposed to be the same.
It sounds like a game that was designed around the hard drive.
That's
And it's
exactly
like, what is
it.
a way that we can show this hard drive off, and that whether you're doing it in real time, like you're conjuring the ability to go between worlds, that it seems like that's going to be a huge part of like the gimmick of the game.
I wrote Infinity because of BioShock Infinity. Or Infinite. That's why I wrote
Oh,
Infinite. That's why. Because
right.
you're opening portals to other
Portals.
dimensions.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now you're thinking with portal.
Oh boy.
There were several moments during this trailer where I was like, what is happening on the screen? I cannot see things because there are too many explosions and effects going off. And it's a thing about this kind of like cartoony, more simplistic design where like it feels like they have extra power left over to render other things in much higher definition, and it like feels like, one, it feels off with like how cartoony it's supposed to be, but two, it like sometimes I feel like it goes overboard into like, this is no longer legible. Like there's too much information on the fucking screen and I don't need like half of it.
It was very difficult to figure out where on the screen I was supposed to be looking and how to follow the action. I have to say, my brain just interpreted it as a huge mass of very pretty colors, but it was not very clear to me what was happening.
Which is kind of counter to the whole point of like cartoony aesthetics anyways. It's supposed to be simpler and easier to read. And they've kind of like, I feel like they're like on the line of muddying that a bit.
Not Ratchet and Clank though. Like that's Ratchet and Clank has like starting with the PS4 and PS3 entries, like very much leans into we're gonna like this is a game where everything that you're hitting or exploding creates like 1,000 little pieces that go all over the screen for you to collect. Like it's a game about overwhelmed senses. Like that's like a huge. You know, I mean, whether that's like distracting or not, like that is in line with the Ratchet aesthetic.
Right.
Fair enough.
Patrick's just going to plant one of his kids in front of that game and be like, you dazzled child. I got to go. Daddy's got a podcast.
Look at all the colors. The next thing was Project Athia, which is a Square Enix thing.
Gary Whitta
Cado.
collaboration.
Wait, is
sure.
it? Is that what Gary
Yeah,
was
he's
teasing
well,
earlier? Huh.
Yeah,
That's
he said he led some sort of writer's room. So I don't know that he's like writing the game as much as like came up with like a like a world Bible or something like that.
To the anime likers in the room, I have to tell you that what I wrote down for Project Athia, I have to double check that is what it was Square Enix Isekai.
Yeah,
Am I fucking wrong?
I can see it. I
Yeah.
can see it. Yeah.
That's funny because
in
what I
another
wrote
world
down
with
was
my cell
Project
phone.
Alita, and that was just a typo, but still.
Project Alita. That's right.
I want that game. Give me that shit.
That would be great. My thought here is actually way more grounded in the history of Luminous Productions, which is who gets a credit on this, which I believe is just a sub studio inside of Square, and previous next gen videos they've put out. Does anyone remember Agni Philosophy? The Agni Philosophy video?
Well, this is back when they were doing their Luminous engine that was going to power like all their games for like the next 20 years, and then they went, "Oh no, what if we just got Unreal Engine?"
Yeah, totally. Well, so that engine is called Luminous Engine. Yeah, the name of the studio is Luminous Studio. That was like a witch doing some shit. Then there was a follow up called
That was a cool little.
That was a cool
bit.
Yeah, it was. Then there was a thing called Witch Chapter 0 bracket cry close bracket love you Square Enix. And my thought is like, did they finally take that shit and turn it into are they doing that game as a game now finally instead of just
they just came to Gary Wood and said, watch these like sizzle reels, and then can you come up with a world?
Can you come up with a world around this?
Is there a game in this? Let us know.
Please let us know. We'd love to
$10,000.
figure out if there were a game in here. Yeah, exactly. We'll see. There's who knows. That didn't have a date on it either, right? So again, really quick.
2022.
Gran Turismo, did that have a date?
No.
Okay, Ratchet and Clank, no date.
Ratchet and Clank, my guess, it didn't have a date, but that seems like a launch game would be.
Yeah.
I was
shocked
sitting on
if
that because
came
it'll
out.
be like a nice surprise in August.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. The next one. How do you feel about cats? How do you feel
my
about
God.
cyberpunk dystopias?
They make me feel like shit. I respect that people love cats.
Wow.
Are they
but,
mean to you?
Like shit?
I'm allergic.
Listen, okay, people are
okay.
allergic. It's
That's
fine.
fair.
It's
That's
fine.
fair.
Yeah, that's not a.
I
That's
thought you just like
No
hated them
judgment.
so deeply that you felt bad.
I mean, I do.
Oh, you're a
like I
Bears
do.
fan? The cat blinks its paw, starts licking its claws. How's that working out for you, Patrick?
Listen, okay, I just have to say, I know when I get got, right? That shit got me, okay?
Yeah.
I got.
okay.
When I looked at my own actual cat and she was watching the trailer with me, I was like, I'm got. This is it. I love
a
this game
cat.
now.
Yeah.
I love cats. And I love little robots' expressions. I just
The
love
robots
everyone.
are good. The premise seems to
Who's
be all of
making
the
it?
humans are dead.
Yep.
Sorry to
Tight.
bring it down real quick.
Sounds really
No,
good though
sounds
at this
great.
point.
Yeah.
And there's a dystopian cyberpunk city filled with robot people, and you play a cat who gets to walk around the world. I don't know who makes it.
Cat's
Who's
got a
making
little backpack. It's an Annapurna one, another one.
But they just
Annapurna in
publish.
Bay 12?
it? Bay 12. They did. What do they do? I've played something from Bay 12. Well, it can't be. Wait, that can't be Bay 12.
No,
Bay
that can't be Bay
is-
12. That's Dwarf Fortress.
That's Dwarf Fortress. It's
There was
definitely
a
not
bay
Bay
in it,
12.
and there was a
B
number-
12. Blue
B
12. Blue 12.
Blue 12. Okay.
I was like, Bay 12.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
That would be a chill thing for them to reveal
If they
that they've been doing, you know?
They're like, we didn't put any graphics in Dwarf Fortress because we were saving them all for this game.
We had only all graphics in this game. This game's only graphics. Dwarf Fortress is no graphics.
God.
If you search
So-
Blue 12, you just get Air Jordan 12 Retro French Blue. That's
good.
What are they going for?
So,
Yeah.
what is Flight Club? Is this a place where people
we
sell
can't go down.
shoes?
We can't go down.
Oh my god, what if Patrick becomes like a sneakerhead?
Sneakerhead, please.
Yo, I would love
What
this
is
fatherhood
Flight Club?
turn
Patrick's
for you.
of an age, Patrick's of an age, and like with the
And you
two
know-
kids,
Ooh.
like there is high guy potential in Patrick's life.
He
Coming
knows
with
John
plug
Drake,
lights
and we know
slowly.
that John Drake is a big sneakerhead. You have an in. You would get into sneakers. We could make this happen.
The floor of this shoe is because it depends on the size that you want to get, which is interesting. I didn't know that much about
Yes,
sneaker
tell me
culture, but it
more.
makes sense that the size would like the prices would vary based on like the commonality of the size.
Yep.
So if you want like a
course.
7, if you want like a size 18, you're looking at 320. If you're looking at size 7.5, you're you're looking at a 565. I don't know if I could be a sneakerhead because I have extremely wide feet, which means I usually have to like try 6 different versions of a shoe to figure out if it's gonna fit. So that's why I like buy one shoe and then just wear it out and then just buy a new shoe because it's such a pain in the ass.
On 5 different Jordans just to see which one fits, right?
But
Yeah,
think about the opposite
You don't
world.
wear them. They're not for wearing.
Yeah, you wear them. Yeah,
That's true.
exactly. Welcome to the world
That's
of wearing
true.
uncomfortable shoes once and then dealing with it because you look fly and then moving on with your life. Like,
That's
Then you gotta, like,
being
have
a
a
woman,
shelf.
baby.
yeah.
Patrick installing track
$200 on a
lighting.
pair of shoes for Fashion Week that I've worn one time. You know what? They're hot
See?
shoes. I thought I would be going to the office more this summer.
God.
I like the idea though. My wife gets all the like notifications from the credit card as push notifications. I turn that off because it would stress me out. But she likes to track all that stuff in her head. So I like the idea of like, can I just purchase this so it gets like sent to the credit card and then I'll cancel it immediately. But I want like a push to go through that's like 565 purchase Flight Club Air Jordans that goes to her.
Get yourself some
while
Jordan
she's
1s.
walking our
Please
dog.
send us what you think. If you are in sneaker culture, please send us what sneakers you think Patrick should be wearing. You don't need to give me the whole fit, but just like we could in our minds build something. You know what Patrick wears. Buy him a shoe. Find him a shoe. Don't buy him a shoe. Patrick can buy his own fucking shoes.
Unless you want to sell
We
me
got
a
the numbers
shoe.
now.
Fuck, that's true.
Oh,
Why don't you buy me a fucking shoe?
damn. Get him. Fuck.
Just kidding. All
So-
love and light in this podcast today.
But actually, that leads us
At least I
back
know what I'm
to-
getting everyone for Christmas is just shoes. Just let me know.
Air Jordans.
Just Jordan.
Size
Envelopes
7.5
full of cash.
men's Air Jordans, irrespective of what kind of shoe we wear.
I like the idea of Patrick like going around the vice office like Don Corleone at Christmas, right? And just like giving people like a turkey and like
Incredible.
slipping a little cash alongside it too.
Please.
But that actually does lead us back to just one thing about Stray.
Yeah.
Cat, totally cute. Love the cat. But also it very much is a game of like, what if all the bleak aesthetics of modern life with its income inequality, precarious populations, what if all of that is the backdrop for the game and you're exploring it and bearing witness to it, but it's cute little robots with little Apple IIe heads instead of people. And I don't know, it's just like it's a great looking game. Like I love the look of it, but also it does seem like it is what is the harmless cute aesthetic I can put on the thing I want to talk about. And that's valid. Like that's a fine approach, but also to what end?
Mm-hmm. From the website, it's clear it is a third-person cat adventure game set amidst.
Click this video that I just shared.
What'd you send me? Ooh.
So this game used to be called something called HK Project.
Okay.
Hong Kong Project.
Hunter
One
killer.
assumes.
Yeah,
Killer.
obviously.
It's cat.
The cat is here as
Just
a killer.
the idea
Who do you,
of being
okay,
a
hey,
cat in a big city, regardless of the time and place.
who do you
that
think
to
killed the
me
people?
Sounds great.
Who do you think? Why do you think
Oh
there's no
my
humans?
God.
The
All
cat.
the fucking cops.
Yeah, well, okay, fair.
Yeah.
I can't believe this cat is a cop. Damn.
No, don't cancel the cat. The cats can't be canceled.
Oh no, it's a good-looking cat. Yeah. So third person.
Great cat.
What a
right
good,
there.
that's a great cat. Takes a pet like no problem. Eventually, you get a robot. You get a small flying drone known only as B-12. So, you know, you're
Cat
trying to
with a
get out
drone.
of the city.
Ella would attack and destroy that thing. You can't put a flying object
No.
near a cat. They'll kill it.
But this is a
this
cat that wears a backpack. So this cat's different.
This cat's different.
Ripped
This
it,
cat
Ella,
is not
but-
regular, okay?
God.
No, I just think, the base concept is good. I don't know that it needs to be in a dystopian robot future. But I like not having to think about human beings at this moment in time, right? It does feel nice to imagine a world without people, but there is sort of that weird disconnect. Like, why did the robots just decide to replicate all of the issues of humanity?
Y'all gotta play Nier.
My dude, I have played Nier.
I want to play the original Nier. Like,
No.
come on, let's go. Where's that
That's
remaster?
happening, right? Isn't that happening?
Yeah,
Is it Nier
or they're not
remaster?
calling it a remaster, right? What they're calling it something very specific.
Oh, yeah, they are.
An off-Broadway
They rejected the remaster
Remastered.
term.
It's called Nier
Remastered?
Replicant version 1.22474487139.
Yep. That sounds,
That's
and you're
some
going to be
bullshit.
playing as the Bishonen brother as opposed to the grimdark dad.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We already talked about the next game, which is Returnal. We already talked a little bit about
Skipping
Sackboy.
the controller and its haptic feedback.
Yeah, you know what? I did skip it. I did skip the DualSense controller. They'd already put details out on it. There was already
That's
that
true.
blog post.
Yeah.
Haptic feedback, built-in mic, built-in speaker.
That's just Rumble, right? That's just Rumble?
It's special Rumble. It's
Special-
like HD
fancy
Rumble.
Special
but-
Rumble.
HD Rumble, if you will.
Yeah.
It has
That's
HD
what the
Rumble
Switch
and
has.
3D sound, babies.
I'm enjoying the grudging retreat from the DualShock design toward the Xbox control. Like, it is very
Love
much
it because
like,
fuck the DualShock design.
just
Fuck
a
that,
decade
no.
of not invented here prejudice slowly giving way to reality where it's like people hate this fucking controller.
It's
We
so
hate this
uncomfortable to
controller.
get your
Kato,
thumbs on those analog
let's let
sticks.
Kato
No, it'd be
have-
nice.
Let's let Kato do
Look.
the defense.
I literally have figured out how to make my DualShock 4 work on all my PC games because I fucking hate how the fucking analog sticks are off. It feels unnatural to me on the Xbox controller to have one of my thumbs up and the other thumb down when I'm using two sticks. That's it. I don't know. I fucking like the other controller.
Kato like put out this like really strong like hell yeah, and then like waiting for like
Look, my
a
fucking
call and
chest.
response from the audience, and it was just crickets.
This is why Kato wanted. This is why Kato wanted to stream. He wanted
Look,
to
Kato,
know.
you
He
should-
knew.
You should create like a YouTube series where you explain how like their classical proportions that celebrate the Western heritage with the DualShock 4.
God.
But then
You have, like, a
like the
pair of-
modernist Xbox controller, what's that
Do you have
about?
a pair of calipers that you could use to measure the distance between the analog sticks or something?
Throwing dark.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god! All
No, this is
right.
what I call the golden controller ratio.
Yeah.
See how the thumbs are even.
Ergonomics is a real science.
It's just, this is modern art with Simon Shamma, but just Kato and video game controllers.
Kato is just on eBay buying like 60 DualShock controllers to just like Bluetooth will exist forever. I'll just reconnect it.
The universal standard. We can keep
Make one that
moving.
looks like marble.
God, that would All right, Returnal. Sackboy, a big adventure. Sackboy, we didn't really explain what it was, but it's just like it's just a 3D platformer, multiplayer 3D platformer. It looked like made by Sumo Digital that uses Sackboy and does not seem to have any level creation stuff as far as we can tell. I kept waiting to be like, and it was made in Dreams, and it was not made in Dreams.
No, it was just made regular kind.
Yeah,
They just forced Sumo Digital to make it in Dreams.
that would have been so
God.
good. I would have
That would
fucking loved it,
rock.
to be honest.
Love that.
Next up, Destruction AllStars. AllStars, one word camel case. Don't know how I feel about that decision, but I think this game looks it looks all right. It's a destruction derby. You got cartoony characters. I'm gonna play it for a weekend.
Cars you
This
can
is
fuck
the
up.
stuff. This is the kind of stuff I would have loved to see more of, right? Because this seems like it's something that is speaking to gamers and what they need right this moment. Which is like, honestly, we all need new party games right now. We're playing a lot of party games, and this seems like a lot of fun. Just like you're chilling in the Discord group, like voice chat, and someone decides they want to explode cars for a while. This seems perfect. Yeah.
My friend Kieran sent me this Keita Takahashi quote. Basically, my friend Kieran is very excited about everything here, and I was very much like, what am I doing with any of this? Very much the Rob, like, until I know what my verbs are, what the fuck do I care? And the quote from Keita Takahashi is something like, a game doesn't have to be good or important, it just has to be fun. And my thing is, like, most of the games I saw today, I didn't see enough to know if I was going to be having fun. This, I can imagine myself having fun with this. This looks like Rocket League meets like Rocket League Battle Royale, which actually sounds very cynical when I say it that way. But you know,
like you can immediately imagine the context in which you'll be playing this game.
Exactly.
Like where you derive joy, and it's in destruction with other people.
You're zooming around this kind of big open destruction derby like arena, slamming into other cars, and it looks like you can get knocked out of your car. Maybe your car can be destroyed, and then you're just a person running around the arena.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Maybe until you get another car. I don't really know. I guess we'd have to play. We'd have to find out. This is the game that I most wish I was at an E3 to play.
Right.
Because you know that this would be there. You'd have a really good multiplayer match. It wouldn't be very intense. You wouldn't have to take a lot of notes. You wouldn't have like a long interview. It would just be like a 30-minute session where you sit down in an air-conditioned room and you get to play a game against some journalist you haven't seen in a year. You're like, oh, yo, it's Mike. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I gotcha. And that's a fun experience. And for that reason, I missed E3 this year. Any other thoughts on this one? I'm going to keep on moving.
Let's keep it moving.
It's been so
unless
long.
Cado.
Well, I was just gonna say it's been so long since I've been able to destroy a car. You know, and I'm very
like
excited
only a
to
few
do that.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like I don't know. Burnout 3 is my favorite Burnout, and
Fair.
that's all I'm gonna say about that. I guess.
Oh, you don't have like a big monologue about Burnout 3 being the best one? The way
No,
you did with
the
controllers?
cars go crush good.
The cars go crush good, and that's all you need to know. Okay?
There's a moment in this crash go burr. There is
Austin,
a moment.
no, you have to know what the verbs are.
Yeah, perfect. There is a moment in this trailer where a car grows a big blade somehow and cuts another car in half, and that's sick. So, the next thing is a new game by a studio that primarily, it seems like, previously did animation and film work called Ember Lab. It's called Kena, Bridge of Spirits, or Kena, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, which has some like Pikmin vibes. There's like a young girl meditating in the forest near some shrines. There are these little kind of like black soot creatures. They're not soot creatures, but they have that vibe. And then she has like a staff and a magic bow, and she's running around and using them to help attack things and solve puzzles and, you know, bring life back to the forest. It has a very strong like Kubo vibe to me.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone else caught that or any other inspiration.
And it's Pixar looking ass, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think of the Pixar looking ass games, so this is the one that most successfully aped the aesthetic, for sure.
Yeah.
It looked a lot like you were playing an animated movie, which will appeal to a lot of people. I'm
Feels
on the
more
fence,
dreams
but I
work
think,
to me, you know?
yeah,
Like
also
how to Train Your
feels like it works to
Dragon
me.
stuff.
Yeah.
I think that they've managed to nail the aesthetic so accurately that I'm willing to see what happens when you play the game, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, it'll some people will find this game pretty fun.
Yeah.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
I missed this trailer. I was cleaning up poop.
You should look
Oh,
at
okay.
it. I'm sorry. Well, that's here. I'll link it for you. I'm gonna just read from the website, and like this is gonna sound like a drag, but our portfolio includes character-driven commercials and animated shorts for the Coca-Cola Company, Hisense, and Major League Baseball. And it shows like that is the vibe. It feels like if one of these characters started drinking a Coke, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, this looks like a long Super Bowl commercial.
Yes. Yes.
You will hunt and kill the polar bears in this game.
You build your team, find and collect rot, which are, I guess, these little creatures, to gain powerful abilities, make discoveries, and transform the environment. Explore a forgotten village and a strange curse. Draw on power of the spirit realm to restore this once majestic world. And fast-paced combat. Spirits have become corrupt, trapped, and unable to move on, challenging Kena at every turn. It is an action-adventure game. This, to me, feels like... Also, this specifically says PS4 and PS5. And I think it looks good, but it definitely didn't look like... There's no way this could come out on a PS4 or on an Xbox, One or whatever. I will say I'm very curious to see the degree to which it's aping kind of East Asian mythology and vibes, given that I think it's an American-made game. Mike and Josh Greer are the founders of this company.
They
I'm
did
not saying they
find
can't
two
nail it,
black
but
developers to talk at this moment. I did notice that. And there was sort of a presentation near the end emphasizing diversity, which was interesting. But
totally.
yeah, I've got some questions about the aesthetic of this game that I would like to learn more about it, is what I'll say. I'd love to learn some more.
Yeah, at some point this game will be out and we'll get to see it. There are of the games we saw here, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, this is a new thing. And that alone, I think, probably raises it a little bit above something like Ratchet and Clank for me, specifically because I just don't have that fondness of Ratchet and Clank, and going into something that's new is always going to excite me a little bit more. Goodbye, Volcano High.
Are you? Oh, we're just skipping it. Ha 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 ha.
No, that's the name of the game,
I know.
Patrick. That's just the name of it.
Wow.
Gita?
Let's think about the rose and the thorn of this presentation.
Uh-huh.
So the rose of this presentation, I think, is that it's wonderful to see what looks like a very personal and like earnest story about growing up in one of these presentations, given a spotlight. They played the whole trailer, and it was like a very cinematic trailer.
Cartoonish dinosaurs going to high school,
Yeah.
flirting, and being sad. That's like,
Yes.
if you haven't seen the trailer, that's the vibe. Cartoons
Yes.
with, this one has a cool haircut. This one has tears in their eyes.
One of them is in a band. You find yourself and all that stuff. See, the thorn is the sense of weariness you're hearing in my voice, which is we've got a lot of games about teenagers finding themselves, and I love that shit. Usually, it's just that they've only gone in one mode of teenage melodrama. It's only the 90s teen comedy mode, where one night changes everyone's lives forever. This is the Can't Hardly Wait Empire Records model. But there's a lot of different stories you can tell about teenagers. Not all of them even really include high school. And I just feel like this also feels very familiar to me.
I'm curious about it. I definitely have. Again, it's like, well, what am I doing in this thing?
Yeah.
Because
is it a visual novel? We don't know.
Right. Is it a visual novel? Is this an Oxenfree? Is this a totally? Maybe. I don't. If so, I don't think Co-op has done something like that before. Okay, I'm just on the Steam page because this is what I should have done to begin with. It is a cinematic narrative adventure about the beginning of a love story and the end of an era. Also, is this going to end with the death of all the dinosaurs? Is that where this goes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. The meteor is in the logo.
100%.
The meteor is in. You're right. It is.
Are you shitting me?
The meteor is in the logo.
No.
It's in the logo.
So
Goodbye,
they're just
Volcano
literally
High.
doing the dinosaurs thing.
Yeah, that's why I linked that video.
I just watched an hour-long video from the YouTuber Jenny Nicholson about watching every single Land Before Time movie in order, and I feel like synchronicity has really happened for me. It all came together.
Branching narrative lets you navigate through difficult choices with far-reaching consequences. Stunning hand-drawn art and character animations. A huge variety of cinematic mini-games. Okay, here's a little bit more clarity. Written using the storytelling engine that powers Heaven's Vault, 80 Days in Sorcery, which does kind of start to fill in the type of narrative adventure game it would be. And then original soundtrack composed by Dabu and featuring Montreal musician Bridget Nagar, who I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. It's explicitly a game or it's explicitly a game with queer characters in it. I don't know if it's a game about queerness per se. We'll see. I would like to see more of it before making any final, decisions on that. Any other thoughts there? All right. Oddworld, Soulstorm.
Yeah, those souls are storming.
We got Abe fans in the house. Any Abe fans?
They've shown that game before, so this wasn't.
Oh, have they? Did they?
No. Yes.
Yeah.
This game's been announced for a while. I like the aesthetic of these games a lot.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is.
Never played
that is
one of
true.
those.
Here's something that was not the thing I thought it would be. Ghostwire
I know what you're about to say.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did not expect it to look like does anyone know Breakdown, the first person brawler for like
Xbox
the
game.
Xbox? Yeah.
What?
Yes, original Xbox.
Oh boy.
Namco Bandai game,
yeah,
right?
Totally. Which also had
A
some
game that
supernatural
people famously
elements.
sort of credit as like having a lot of really inventive first-person brawler mechanics that like one of those like a not quite a Pixies joint where it's like if you go back, this game influenced a whole lot of things, but similar vibes of actually there was a lot going on here for like sort of what was otherwise an obscure Japanese game that didn't get a ton of
just
attention.
for the Xbox too. Like that was not it was not like a wide-reaching PS2 game or something.
Microsoft bought that. It was like, could you make something? And
Please?
they're like, sure.
Yeah.
Dust off this prototype.
Anyway, it is that. It is a first person. So people don't remember, Ghostwire Tokyo, what made huge waves was that last year?
Yeah.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
Okay. When it debuted at someone's event.
I'm not sure the game made huge waves.
You're right.
A very charming creative
the
director
trailer
made a lot of waves.
Did also.
The trailer did.
was sick. Yeah.
It was hyped up though because
But it didn't. It was just a CG trailer. Like it didn't. It was not.
No, but the vibe was
game.
yes, the vibe was nice to the degree that I don't get hyped on vibes that often. But I was like, oh, yo, these vibes are good. Ikumi Nakamura did steal the show with the pitch. And then today we saw what gameplay looked like for this. So you can think about it broadly. The tone was like supernatural Tokyo cityscapes, very strange, creatures, very evocative in its presentation of horror elements, basically. And then today what we saw was this is a first-person action game where you are using like magic. You were like. Yeah, you're basically using jutsus in the Naruto slang, basically like casting spells and using hand motions to summon attacks or cut into enemies or create fireballs or whatever in various like Tokyo environments. The creature design is really on point. I think that the aesthetic is still really cool. Mm-hmm. I will say it was hard for me to look at this and not go like, is this a VR game in a way that kind of stings? Like, I don't know. It looks cool.
I don't know. I'm hoping it's a bad trailer because I got no. Yeah, like my enthusiasm for it was pretty deflated.
The last thing I want from cool creature design is just me slaughtering those cool creatures back to back to back. I want to be creeped out. I want to feel like I'm in a space that I'm not in immediate control over. And this just feels like an action game where,
absolutely.
I don't know.
The trailer last year looked so like horror, like slanted that I just, when this came on screen, I was like, what? This doesn't look like the same game that was sold with that other trailer.
That vibe is gone. The vibe, the enigmatic quality of that original teaser, once it sort of reveals itself to be like, well, just another video game, it loses what made it feel special. It felt like there's a strong mystery component in that original trailer, right? They did talk about during that presentation that it was a mystery and that you would be uncovering secrets. And it feels like that emphasis has gone way away in this trailer. Okay. And the emphasis has been put on the action, which is not what interested me about the game at all.
Totally. Like the soundtrack backs that up. The entire like pacing of this trailer. Again, it feels like a shonen show versus feeling like a horror show, and that is a pretty big difference. Yeah. Like I would have loved a version of this that leaned, and again, who knows? It could be a bad trailer. These fights could be once every hour, and the rest of it is like walking around interesting spaces and being creeped out.
That seems unlikely.
It does seem unlikely. It extremely seems unlikely. Oh well, we'll see.
Waka.
2021 on that, so we'll find out next year. And that's not PS5 exclusive, right? That's everywhere, presumably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up was a surprise to me. A new Super Brothers joint, Jet the Far Shore, Jett, the Far Shore, which...
from Valorant.
Yeah, Jet from Valorant gets on a spaceship. What's
this
game?
This actually... I don't know, but I will say its like appearance prompted. It's rare for a game to prompt like a kind of an oh my god, but I adored Sword and Sorcery. So much for mostly its aesthetic and its soundtrack in particular. So it's one of my favorite game soundtracks of all time. I listen to it constantly, even to this day. And like to remember where that game came in, like it was a game that like emphasized being on the iPhone and iPad, and it was it's like, oh, we're a very serious game that's going to be on these platforms, and it was like a really cool moment where that game came out, and then the main developer on that just sort of disappeared. Like the game did really well, made a bunch of money, and from what I understand, they like went to a cabin in the woods and just decided to like be chill, and like there was all indications that maybe they would never make anything again. And so I don't know what this is. I don't know that I came away from the trailer going like, hell yeah, right. Except that I like the fact that Super Brothers is choosing to come back and make that studio's making something else when by all accounts they didn't probably made enough money to not need to do that, nor felt any rush to make something else, makes me genuinely curious. Well, what was the idea that brought you back to the table? even if this trailer maybe didn't explain that to me, because it
very
doesn't really explain itself.
Interstellar vibes in terms of music,
Yep.
a spaceship traveling through space for hundreds of years, going to a water planet, and also leaving people behind. Is kind of, it opens with, it's almost like first person walk past a bunch of people in cloaks and hats as a person leaves on or goes to a spaceship, and it almost has like insectoid qualities in some ways, and then finally takes off and flies up from this kind of the hands of a temple, almost, it looks like, into the sky. And I don't know, I'm curious. It's a team that I think could do really cool things with this kind of broad genre space of interstellar travel that takes hundreds of years. So we'll see. Though also, like, what is that team? Is that the same people who worked?
I mean,
on
Super
Sword and
Brothers
Sorcery?
was I believe it was mostly just one
Okay.
person. Like Super Brothers, I think it's Craig. I'm not trying to pull information from like 10 years ago, but I believe Super Brothers is essentially one person, and then it was a collaboration with Capybara Games that helped. Like Sword and Sorcery was like, I have this idea, I want to make this, I don't have resources to make a game. And then Cappy kind of stepped in to like facilitate a lot of that. So I don't know, this one isn't a collaboration with Cappy, and they mentioned in the trailer that the soundtrack isn't being done by Jim Guthrie, who did the soundtrack to Sword and Sorcery. So I don't know, I'm curious. It's been more than 10 years since that game, so which is kind of wild.
Yeah, agreed. This one was rough for me. Godfall.
The loudest possible song that they played, and they played the whole song. That's what I just have to say about that trailer.
They did play the whole song.
And it was a really bad song, and it was so much louder than the rest of the presentation. This is how I know I'm getting old, right? I just couldn't handle it.
This is the looter slasher, right?
Yes. We have a term for this.
A sloosher. This is the sloosher.
Oh, no.
This is the sloosher.
I don't like it.
This was like the quote unquote first PS5 game.
Right. Yeah.
They decided to be that. There's always, every generation, there's somebody who goes first with a mediocre looking game.
Listen, Dark Sector begat Warframe,
Yes.
and people like Warframe.
Yes.
So, third person action game. I think the character design is maybe redeemable. Is like, has some cool, like, people with big animal, like metal animal armor heads, and I think some of the creature design is fine, but like, it looks like a third person action game that could have come out anytime in the last 5 years in terms of just like what, I don't know. I'm being very dismissive, and again, maybe if I picked it up, I would really love what it plays like.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to be a bummer, right? I know people get really enthusiastic and excited. I know, like, I was in a group chat with a lot of my friends and saw them being excited, enthusiastic, because it's new shit. New shit meant to entertain you in a time when it's been very tense. But I feel like the momentum of just feeling bored really hit at exactly this trailer, and it made it difficult to get excited for things.
I was thinking maybe this is also one where I think it may be a different song may have sold me on the mood of this game better, and instead it's almost as if the game doesn't take itself particularly seriously. Not that it was like a jokey song, but it was like 6-year-old bad rap rock. Like,
yes, it again felt totally out of touch.
Yeah,
I felt like it was a trend that had already passed.
Yeah,
like it did not feel like anything that's speaking to this current moment right now, which is really, really essential when you're trying to sell something brand new that costs like $500.
Right. We also, we have no idea how much a PS4 or PS5 is going to cost. So, I don't know. That guy's a laser whip. That seemed cool, I guess. For a game that has sold itself as a looter slasher, a sloosher, I would have definitely expected a little bit more clarity, even on just like, okay, what's that mean? Like, is this Diablo style weapons? Like, what is happening here? I think another touchstone is it definitely looks like, what if we made an Infinity Blade game, but like open more?
It definitely has that aesthetic.
Totally. Let's say we do one more and take a break.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Heart Machine is back. Hyperlight Drifter's Heart Machine is back with Solar Ash, which I don't know if it's a sequel or set in the same world, but there's definitely some crossover.
Yeah.
In the aesthetic, you're definitely playing as
100%.
like a red cloaked figure who has like similar like neon blue elements, and in this case seems to be rollerblading around an otherworldly environment. Did this hit for anybody? Is anyone like, yeah?
I mean,
I like that last game.
I love
and
Hyper.
I'm sure I'll,
yeah.
But it didn't show enough of, like, clearly movement mechanics are going to be huge in this. Like there was slight allusions to kind of like skating and flying through the world in some way, and I want to see what that is, because it seems like that's going to be a big part of, like, the end of that trailer. Is a sort of like a cityscape, and the implication, and that the main character jumps down on some sort of creature, so you get the vibe that, like, like flying through some sort of like movement is going to be a huge part of it, as it was in Hyper Light Drifter. And so, absent seeing more of that, it's more like, yeah, of course I'm going to be interested in what this studio makes next, but like I'm just waiting to see more, I guess.
Yeah, something about the way that the like little skating movement, and then also how the whole world turns upside down, gave me like, are they trying to do some sort of like Gravity Rush-esque thing where like direction changes are going to be the whole, like, that could be cool.
Which honestly, let's go. Like, I like Gravity Rush a whole bunch. I miss Gravity Rush. Give me another Gravity Rush game. Or, this team specifically, I think, could probably do some cool stuff there. I think that the move from 2D to 3D is really tough, but we'll see. 2021. So there's that. All right, let's take a quick 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll pick up the rest of this show. What do we call it? The three big ones you're saying are Demon Souls, Horizon, and Resident Evil? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. I don't think that's that big. I'm excited for it.
Deathloop?
I want to talk about it.
Deathloop.
But
I think you should also talk about that, because I know you guys will go off
You
on
should
that.
talk about it
so
too, Patrick.
let's come back.
That looks very that looks like Dishonored Reject.
Well, let's
Wow. You
now
sack of garbage.
now we're back and we're talking about we're skipping everything to jump to Deathloop.
Philistine.
Wow.
Patrick, we're back.
Holy
what the
shit.
fuck, Patrick?
I was not.
Patrick's
Jeez,
fired
okay,
now.
well,
Patrick's off the pod. No, I'm just kidding. I love you. I couldn't be mean to
the
you.
way Patrick finally got canceled was to insult an Arkane project.
Deathloop looks good.
No, it looks fine. It was just, I was taken by how much the mechanics looked like Dishonored to start.
Right.
Yes.
The thing is that you are correct, right?
Like when it jumped down, like I said, Dishonored Reject, because it was like, oh wait, was this like a Dishonored prototype that they just went to go do something else with? Because like when it jumps down and stabs the dude, it's like that's just
Corvo.
the Dishonored
That's
animation.
Emily. Yeah, I will definitely say my vibe on that game is a little bit like, hey, what if we found packaging for our games that will hit a wider audience than space station melodrama, immersive sim, or
I agree. I think
industrial
that's smart.
fantasy. Yeah. So anyway, we are gonna go ahead.
French new wave groovy 60s movie definitely
Time
is
loop.
more mainstream than those other things, but
Time loop assassin, rival assassins stuck on an island, stuck on like. It's not quite the Prisoner aesthetic, but you could draw a line between the two, and that I'm happy with. We're going to jump ahead a little bit because Patrick's time. Patrick is on borrowed time as a dad, which sounds like we're setting an assassin after him, which we're not. Though after what he just said about Arkane, I don't know. So we're gonna hit some of the.
Honestly, this quarantine with 2 kids at home has felt like a death loop.
Jesus Christ.
Quite fair.
So we're going to the biggest game here. Bugs. No, we're not going to. We'll talk about Bugs next after Patrick's gone. Resident Evil 8 Village. Resident Evil 8 Village.
What a terrible name.
What's happening? Talk to me about Resident Evil 8.
I don't know.
Fucking Chris Redfield stone cold murked someone. Shit. Like, what the fuck happened to Chris?
He's been through a lot, right?
He was reintroduced in a DLC for 7, which I never played because I've put off doing it because I wanted that to be like my way back into 7 before 8 came out. I don't know. I thought that trailer was terrible.
Yeah.
It had some striking images at times, but I didn't particularly like the way the game was presented. It gives me some pause. My worry all along with them doing a sequel to 7 was that 7 was a straight up horror game that had action elements and got very actiony in the back third of the game, but it was very slow. And the arc of the Resident Evil games is to start slow and then just realize, we should probably just start shooting more things.
Like an SNL
and like
skit.
the things should get bigger and they should be grosser. That's just the way that series has gone. And I was worried that they were, especially after Resident Evil 7 sold pretty well, but the Resident Evil 2 remake did like gangbusters. And I was worried that like the reaction to that was like, oh, we should go more in the direction of all those games, as much as I liked Resident Evil 2. And so I don't know. It's hard for me to like tell too much about what's happening in Resident Evil 8. It seems like they're trying to do what if Resident Evil 4, but
Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I was literally going to say,
7?
this is the Resident Evil 4 of the like new modern era of Resident Evil.
Well, including like start at a village, go to a castle,
Right,
that, like that happens in RE4, and then there, there's the 3 women who seem like 3 eccentric sisters or something like that. That is very much in line with Resident Evil 4. Is like get to the castle and there's just like a strange cast of characters that you come across. I'm glad it's first person. Like I'm glad they're keeping that. I'm curious to see what they do with it. But it was hard to tell too much from the trailer. I'm just worried it's going to be more. I read the PlayStation.
What?
The PlayStation blog post. Hi. That said an increased emphasis on. What's up, naked child? No clothes right now, huh?
Why not?
Resident Evil 8, along with my daughter, an increased emphasis on combat is always a worry.
Both your children already have an increased competency with the focus on combat, I feel like.
I think that there's like the Winter Village castle vibe is kind of cool. I think that there's a degree to which if you spend a lot of time in that village getting to know a cast of characters who are creepy as shit, and it's kind of like low-key intense for the first 5 hours or something, or 3 hours, I would be way into that. I don't know that I trust that that's what that will be. Or the other thing of like, the opening sequence of there's an old guy with a shotgun in the cabin with you. I think there is something, there's definitely, you could do the horror game that is you and an old dude in a cabin for an hour as creepy stuff happens all around you. I don't believe that's what we're going to get. But
see, I think this is all why I kind of found that trailer encouraging. Is I think some of its oddness is also that the trailer is really in love with the conceit that the numerals for 8 will fit neatly into Village. Like the trailer is really built around this whole notion that like Roman numeral 8, Village. But I also did kind of like that. My fear was that they were going to really like center combat in this, and that really wasn't what they appeared to be going for. It just looked kind of weird, right? It looked like you're going to go to a creepy, fucked up small town, and bad things are going to happen. And I'm like,
and werewolves.
I'm here for werewolves. Yeah. Resident Evil werewolves, yeah, definitely.
I love going to small towns and having bad things happen.
That's usually what happens in small towns. Yeah.
I'm like the anti-John Mellencamp.
God. Sorry, anti-John Mellencamp is very fun. It's like a very good,
That's my SoundCloud rap name, actually.
Good. I'm curious about it. We'll see. Was that dated? Is that coming out next year? This year? Probably next year.
Yeah, they said 2021.
Okay. Get my list back up. Other big stuff that we want to hit before Patrick gets pulled away. There's a child on video hiding behind Patrick. Love it. We're getting it. We're getting the remake. We're getting the remaster. The question mark from Bluepoint that we expected, that we were pretty sure we would get. We're getting Demon Souls.
Can I show you two screen? Can I show you? No, I reject your tweet, Cado. Hold on. Jessica has a question.
Hi, Jessica.
What?
Jessica, hi.
What is your question?
Hi.
Does this work?
Does this work?
Mm-hmm.
Did you try pressing the buttons?
Holding a game. It's a gamer. That's a gamer. That's a baby gamer.
Yep.
Is
Not
it
a
not
baby,
working?
but a child gamer.
Okay.
Child gamer.
You're a
Child
baby
gamer.
you could
World premiere.
Okay, hold on. Yes, so Cado has sent this comparison between the big night boss from
The Tower Knight, I believe,
from Demon
right?
Souls. Yes.
Yes.
Now I want to send this.
I'm excited to see.
Right. So this is Vanguard,
Yeah,
which
the
is one of
opening
the
boss.
bosses in Demon Souls. Yes.
Right? And
And then I want to send this.
Okay, that's a bit of a
Ooh.
clear demonstration of what changes have been made, right?
And then I want to send this.
Okay.
But
what I
see,
really want is
still-
for this game to come out and for Patrick to tell me all about the lore. Just me just sit here,
Patrick doesn't
not
know the lore of
playing
this
it.
fucking game.
That's not me. That's not. That's
me.
yeah. You're
read all
talking.
the item descriptions.
He doesn't do that
I
shit.
do not. I scroll
He
right
hates
past,
that
and I was like,
shit.
"What
Okay.
is the +1?"
Okay, Austin, you and me again.
We're doing it. It's going to have to
I
be.
mean, if you're saying, do you want to do a podcast where we talk about the lore of Demon Souls?
Yes. Then yes, of course. Of course we do.
It's the only way I can engage with
But
these
I don't
games,
think
'cause these
Patrick
screenshots
knows the difference
you
between...
posted.
I don't think Patrick
They're so
knows who the old
evocative.
one is. So, what are we going to do? I think
yeah.
that this is... so I was on the Bombcast 2 weeks ago talking about like algorithmic updates to games. I forget where this even came out. I think it was a Sony PlayStation. I think it was a PlayStation thing. Maybe it wasn't a Microsoft thing. Someone was basically saying, "Oh, we have updates that." Jessica is just in Patrick's chair now, looking at the
Aw.
microphone, smiling up. Aw,
She's podcasting
she's
now.
podcasting now.
Hi, Jessica.
She's walking away. Oh, she's turning the chair. I was explaining that there's a degree to me that from an archival perspective really hopes that as we go further and further down the road of remasters, that we maintain, that we encourage these fucking companies to please do their best not to just plaster over the past and the aesthetics of the past and replace them. I was specifically talking about, and I don't remember the specifics of what company said this, but there's like, oh, with our boost, we can add HDR to games that didn't previously have HDR. And for me, that's a pretty big artistic choice. Like, I get the reason they didn't before may have been we didn't have HDR, but that HDR changes the experience of playing a game in a not insignificant way in terms of what a space feels like, right? And so for me, when I look at these comparisons, I recall the previous Bluepoint remaster, which was the Shadow of the Colossus one, which I personally think looks really good, but also understand why people were like, this does not look like this does not evoke to me what Shadow of the Colossus evoked to me. There are artistic differences here. I think the two images that Patrick just showed of the Vanguard demon or just Vanguard, explain that pretty well. Like the original Vanguard is kind of doofy looking, right?
There's a lot of parts of Demon Souls look like complete shit. Like, it has a great art style, but and there's a uniqueness to it, but there's a fine line between, like, your memory of a thing and the thing that it is.
I just think they're different. Like, I think when I look at this Vanguard, the new Vanguard looks like it's something out of the recent Doom games, right?
Yes.
Here's like a very, very, very specific difference. The original Vanguard has these really long teeth that poke out beyond its lower lips. It's almost like a tooth mustache, right?
Like a gag fake teeth.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
totally.
Yeah.
And three big round, completely round, glowy eyes. The new one has like two eyes and then a third eye, and has the teeth. A couple of them are broken and are a little bit longer, but it has like a recessed jaw. It has teeth inside of its mouth where they traditionally would be, and that's like an artistic difference. That is a different vibe in a real way. Likewise, the Tower Knight picture that Cado shared from Twitter user Nebellion. Shout outs to Nebellion. There is a difference in that atmosphere. The original Tower Knight is like drenched in kind of green, like a green filter. Everything is kind of flat and lifeless and corrupted in kind of effect. And the new one is almost like
Warcraft.
Yeah, it's silver and
Like,
blue.
literally, that's Alliance blue.
Yeah,
like, it's
totally.
like, that is the most Warcraft looking night. It's unbelievable.
And I don't.
And also, I think it's just there's in the two images, like Kyle, you had a pretty strong negative reaction, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of there with you. Like, there's an atmosphere to just the way the first shot is lit
Absolutely.
and sort of the haziness of it. Like there's a like Demon Souls at times looks like it was done in oils, and then this is more like just it looks like a fucking video game is the way it looks.
Yeah, there's absolutely a different like tone set by the original image, and like I never played Demon Souls, so I'm really excited to finally get to it. But this Tower Knight one specifically, where it shows a lot of environment and like a comparison between the two, like it just kind of, I don't know, like that you show me that second screenshot outside of the context of this is a Demon Souls game, and I'm like not interested. Right, like there's like a lifelessness to it that isn't like the kind of Dark Souls lifelessness, or like an interesting kind of void there. It's like it's bland. It's a blandness, I guess, is actually what I'm looking for. Yeah, I don't know. But then these other two do give a different, like that bottom one, actually, I feel like has the right atmosphere. The one that is just environment and there's no enemy in it. Like that feels like the right. So I don't know what's going on here where those choices are getting made, but you know, we'll see.
And also on some level, I'd rather they make their own, like it's like the whole notion of like remasters and remakes is weird, because I'd rather Bluepoint on some level put their like, hey, this is the version we're making, as opposed to like, what would it even mean to have like a Western studio like Bluepoint make an update to Demon Souls that is trying to be a one-to-one, like what does that even mean? Like that's like not a thing. And so yeah, I totally agree that the Vanguard looks basically like an enemy out of Doom Eternal. But if that's the vibe, there like it, you definitely see an East versus West sort of like aesthetic here that I'm not like totally shocked by. But I guess I'd just rather they lean into like, here's what we're going to do and we're going to lean into it. And if the whole game is aesthetically consistent with that, I think it'll work. But I mean, it is true that, you know, FromSoft fans are, you know, like many communities, like uniquely attached to their experiences. And so I'm not going to be surprised if this game, you know, gets, even if it looks, you know, gorgeous in its own right, is dragged in some way because of comparisons to the original game.
The added difficulty here is that it's very hard to play the original Demon Souls at this point. There is not a PC version of Demon Souls. There is not a PS4.
The online functionality is turned off on the PS3 version.
And the PS3 was notoriously different to develop for in such a way that I don't know that we can look forward to an upcoming Demon Souls, you know, a direct port to any other platform in the next decade.
I mean, if they wanted to, they could, right?
Yes,
like you look at what's happening in the emulation community. Like it's not, there's no like
I mean,
strict requirement that's preventing them from doing something that was just like, hey, here's 1080p, 60 FPS.
Would love it. Honestly, would love it if this had that built in, or if they said also it's backwards compatible now, and you can download it. That would be the dream for me, would to have both of these things side by side. I'm happy to have someone come in and take their shot at it and say, how do we reimagine this with the added fidelity? We know we have to revisit some of these designs because we've tested it. We don't like what it looks like, and we're going to try to have our hand at it. I'm happy with that. I like thinking about games like Plays in that way, where everything from set dressing and costume design can be changed when you revisit them. I'm pro that in a real way. But the thing that stings for me is the fact that if I did want to direct someone to the experience I had with what is the prison? I almost said Boletaria. Is that the name of the
Boletaria? Oh, Latria.
The Latria prison. No, I'm the one fucking up the lore. Like that I don't know what Latria will feel like here. I bet it will also feel creepy, and I bet it'll be fine. But I would love to be able
I bet of like any environment that I think will like sort of work, regardless of what they do to the enemy design, it will be Latria, because I don't know how overhyped things like ray tracing are going to be for like this coming gen, but you can like lighting effects in Latria are going to be the mind flayers are down, or like, you know, FromSoft's like interpretation of the mind flayer is down. It's just like, I played Demon Souls like I played it right before Bloodborne came out because I wanted to have played the origins of it, and Latria. I mean, a lot of the game holds up. but a lot of it has rough edges, especially if you've played the more mechanically polished, Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne and stuff like that. But Latria holds up, and I'm just so excited for people to experience that again, even if it's a different version. I'm curious. There aren't a lot of details about the game. Like, are they going to mess with the world? What was that? Remember what I'm talking about? Where it's like the players could
world tendency stuff.
The world tendency, is world tendency going to come back?
I don't know. They did say there's a thing called fractured mode. They don't know what that means necessarily. Yeah. But yeah. World tendency was a thing that basically changed the difficulty of certain enemies. It changed how much HP, I believe, you or they had, and it reflected actions across all of the online mode. You could do offline world tendency, I think, but if you were online, you were doing online world tendency, and it was things about like bosses being defeated and things like that changed what the tendency was. Anyway, I'm still excited for it in a real way. I think this was a called shot for us. As soon as we heard Bluepoint was doing something, I think many people said, "Oh, it's a Demon's Souls remaster," which means it wasn't a huge surprise. But I'm still happy that it's happening, and I hope a lot more people get to play that game. I think it's a really distinct and unique thing, and you can see a lot of where Dark Souls comes from with it. But I do think that there is also something different in its world design, because it is not a single big interacted or interlocked world in the way
it's levels,
and I like levels, and Rob Zachney
don't
likes
rebalance
levels.
the magic. Keep it unbalanced.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to do that. They're going to touch that stuff.
Rip to the Royals. The last really big thing that is probably worth shouting out before you go, Patrick, is Horizon Forbidden West, which is, I'm mad that they didn't do a follow-up to Something Dawn. I'm mad there wasn't a day or an afternoon or a dusk or an evening. I would have really loved Horizon One Day as a sequel. I know you can't put one in the sequel's name, but there's not even a number. Forbidden West. What's the read? What's the elevator pitch on this sequel?
Well, for the first one, I started playing it, was surprised by how much I enjoyed a lot of the world building, and then was like, instead of playing this game, I could just read the wiki. And then I did that. And so that's really what I'm feeling here, is like so much cool shit for Aloy to do. I'm excited about that. I really want to know a lot more about some specific things that happened in this game, like how those plot lines develop. But I want a TV show or a comic book is what I think I'm really realizing. I don't know that I want to embody Aloy again. I know a lot of people are really looking forward to this, and I think it's one of the better original IP games. It's come out in a while. It's just the writing, you miss a lot of it because you're fighting a Robo-Croc, and I don't know. I want to watch all the cool holograms with the people walking around and making phone calls. Give me more of that.
You definitely could do, I'm actually shocked, Horizon has not been hey, here's an adaptation that will never happen, but don't worry, here's a press release about, Sony licensing it to Showtime or something.
Get everyone super hyphy about it. Never do it.
Yeah. I probably, of anyone on at Waypoint, liked Horizon Zero Dawn the most mechanically. I know, Austin, you were pretty cool on the mechanics part of it, at least over time. And it looks beautiful. If all of that is real time, as was suggested, it's a really not shocking that Guerrilla Games would have a really gorgeous sort of early PS5 game. Although I guess they didn't say when that's coming out. I bet that's holiday 2021, the October, November game for them. But I don't know. They didn't show very much about it, but I'll fight a fucking turtle. Come at me. Let's go. Why are you so big? It's tough because what am I supposed to say? It looks beautiful. It has a name that makes me feel uncomfortable, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with some of the appropriation in this one. But I really liked the mechanics. I really liked the main character. I really liked the lore. I love the lore in Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought it was a really lots of games do like the post-apocalypse, and I thought like their take on it was like really surprising and smart and fun, and some of the twists were like genuinely like okay.
Well, I felt like it was a really
you-
human approach to the post-apocalypse,
Yes.
right? Like it felt very centered around specific people and their specific needs, like what you would need and want in this world. I felt like they thought about it, and I would love to see that developed more. It's just
I would love for
am
that
on
to
the
be in
other
the
side of the
gameplay
fence.
in any way. I would love for the
Yeah,
set
right?
for those places to feel inhabited by people who have needs instead of by the same vendor in every town.
I forgot all that
Dude,
shit. That was so
I would love there to be
Like,
side
as
quests
soon-
that feel like you're contributing. Like, I think one of the things there that's tough is I want the version that has the same style of side quest that something like The Witcher can have, where you're like, oh wow, I understand more about what this town is like in a real way. It doesn't feel like I'm going out to collect 3 turtle shells or whatever. I'm not saying there was
and it
none
occasionally
of that,
had that
Yes,
stuff, and
yes.
the DLC was actually really the
heard
winter
that.
themed DLC was really good.
And I
Like there's
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll just say really quick. I'm with you that I think the post-apocalyptic, like the backstory, I actually ended up really enjoying. There is that again kind of interminably long mission where you're climbing around some like outpost, and it goes on forever. And I remember being just like, I cannot believe this is going so long. I've been climbing for 30 minutes, and you finally get into this place, and you get like the big history. You get like the big like, here is what happened. I was like, all right, you know what? It was kind of worth it. That was a good.
Yeah.
That's a good beat.
Yeah.
And so
They
even
did do a good job at making the gameplay mechanics lead into a narrative payoff that always felt satisfying.
I don't feel
But-
like that, but that is, I know I am the exception to the rule here because it just didn't, and I hope that they account for that for me. I like, my hope is that this is a game where, you know, I feel like I get to feel like I'm expressing myself in the combat in a way that it doesn't feel like there is so many easy solutions for me to rely on, and that
Yeah.
I can have that, the experience that I hear so many other people had, but like that's,
I hope it has real climbing.
Yeah.
I don't expect it to have Breath of the Wild, like climb on whatever, because Horizon falls into it's not quite open world. It has more like open spaces.
Mhm.
But it definitely falls into like the, as we've talked about, like the Sony aesthetic of like the kind of narrative games that they make. But boy, with this kind of game, like it was really frustrating at Horizon often to be trying to scale these big places where it's like, just let me go this way instead of being funneled as much. And I don't expect them to, you know, put in a stamina meter to let me climb every mountain, but I hope it accounts for that a little bit more, because it really would have benefited from that, both in terms of like the combat and the exploration parts. That would be, and like the fact that they're including swimming areas makes me hope there's a little bit more of an emphasis on that. But
Yeah.
you know, it's again one of those things where this is where I miss E3, where, you know, you go to see like the very limited vertical slice that would have at least one of us could come back and be like, right, okay, I can kind of answer these questions for you.
Totally. Here's the 40-minute version of this demo.
And I talked to the creative director, and here's what he kind of hinted at what they're doing, yada yada.
I asked them about, hey, you're really doing a Frontier story after the weird appropriation stuff in the first game? And they said, yeah, totally. And that wasn't really satisfying, but but we didn't get to have that conversation.
But you know, video games.
dude. It seems like it's taking place. My read on this was like, oh, this takes place in Asia or something, because there is a lot of
Yes.
emphasis, but it's not. It takes place in. This is from the YouTube description. Moves west to a far future America to brave a majestic but dangerous frontier, where she'll face awe-inspiring machines and mysterious new threats. So I'm reading this as California. I'm reading. Yeah.
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 I wrote in the notes while we were working to Rob, hang on a second. Aloy swam to China? Just really, really upset. And he was like, no, I think that's just downtown San Francisco became Chinese somehow. So interested to see what that's all about.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how to, like, it's a gorgeous looking game. But yeah, I am kind of wondering how they're gonna handle all of that. Because the vibe of the trailer was weird.
Yeah. Big robot elephants. I guess we can wrap back around, or Patrick, while we still have you, is there something you want to wrap back around to? Astro's Playroom. Are you excited for another Astro bot?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The thing I will leave on before I actually straight up locked the door, and I'm gonna get yelled at in a second by my daughter when she just starts slamming on it.
I was going to say.
I really can't wait.
Astrobot is a tremendous VR platformer that was released on PlayStation VR a couple years back. really overlooked. Honestly, I wrote in my review for it that it felt like saying like, oh, it feels like a Nintendo game can often be like a strange comparison, but it felt playful and polished in the way that you expect from like a Nintendo platformer, and it was just such a delight. It does it's really, really great in VR, and so I'm a little disappointed. That's like a one thing I wonder about all this is like, you know, the rumors were that they're still going to support VR, and so I hope that Sony continues to support VR on PS5. Maybe that's something we'll hear about later as like a separate, here's how we're doing VR for PlayStation 5. But
it was absent.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Maybe it's just
it was absent today, certainly.
Yeah, like they had a lineup of accessories and there was no VR headset. But it wouldn't shock me if they're like they wanted to do that as its own separate thing, especially if like they, fingers crossed, you know, do it wireless and that whole thing. It would make sense that they would want to like break that out on its own. But yeah, I don't know if this new one is going to be like, I don't know, you know, it looked cute in the way that Astrobot is cute, but it's mostly just a way for me to be like, if you haven't played Astrobot and you have PlayStation VR, like you're really missing out, because it's absolutely one of my favorite games from the last couple of years.
Totally. I put something important in the chat. Patrick, I need a final comment before you go.
Yeah, that
There's a tweet from,
that's a young boy. He seems like a teenager, but he's wearing a very expensive watch, and he appears to be wearing the PS5.
He's doing it
as
to him.
his college. He's ready to go to the club.
You know he had to do it to him.
He had to do it to him. You know he had to do it to him. Uncool Dana on Twitter did a mashup of the I had to do it to him.
I think that's just uncool.
Can you?
I think
it's uncool.
It might be uncool.
Yeah,
it might be uncool.
I was looking. Yeah, uncool. It's hot and I'm
It's been
tired.
a long day.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really
been a long
hot out. It's so hot today.
So,
Austin doesn't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. What I do right now is my fucking air conditioner's off because it makes too much noise. The shape of this thing is weird. It's gonna get real dusty. And
Listen, it looks like what it looks like. Okay, put the pieces together yourself.
Look, I can say this because, and when Rob and I return from dinner and come back to record the second half of this podcast, talk about Last of Us 2, is like, look, I don't give a shit what that thing looks like, because The Last of Us 2, you play that game even on a PS4 Pro, and it sounds like the machine is going to explode. So design it however you want, but as long as that thing is quiet and there is some air circulation, that's all I'm looking for from the next PlayStation.
You really think the labia minora on this PlayStation are gonna make the air circulation?
Right. Well, it was nice. It was nice joining you. I'm going to go join my daughter for dinner. Rob, I will see you on the other side of this later tonight.
If there's anything left.
Bye.
if there's anything left of what we got here, other games that we can talk about.
What is a
Hitman
video
3.
game?
Hitman
That's
3.
one.
That trailer fucking slapped. I'm so excited for more Hitman. That music. It takes a lot to get me hyped on some like synth, like dark synth shit in a video game trailer, but it turns out these environments was a good match for it. Agent 47's being chased in the woods. Agent 47's in fucking Dubai at some sort of wild ass, I don't even know what that party was about, but I'm glad it feels like they're continuing with the extension of extremely hyper opulent, wealthy spaces, and Agent 47 as an agent of chaos therein. Some cool stuff with, it looks like some city stuff and a party and maybe a manor, like a castle manor. I don't know. We'll see. As always, disclosure that the friend of mine, Janine Hawkins, has some writing on that game. So obviously I'm biased and excited about this game because my friend is working on it, but I still think that looks dope. What else? Little Devil Inside.
So this is a survival game, right?
Is it? I don't know what this is.
Huh.
So this was a game that piqued my interest, is because I really fuck with that sort of British animation style.
Can you set up the game a little bit? Can you explain what this is?
So the trailer was this very cutesy sort of arch British funny trailer about one guy who's an aristocrat who spends his days sleeping and doing boring shit, and another guy who's off having adventures.
Mhm.
And on his adventures, he's chased by monsters. He has to shoot them. There's a giant dragon at some point. He is tending to his wounds, which sort of gave me the vibe that this was an adventure game of some kind, a survival game where your wounds and your health and, tracking that kind of stuff becomes important. And I'm not quite sure, again, like what the elevator pitch of it is, but it managed to at least get me interested with the art style, which felt a little bit outside of the sort of rounded edges Pixar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It had a few sharp edges, one or two.
Yeah. It like gameplay wise, and also now that now I've just realized I've seen this before, and I'll link the other trailer in a second. There's a very distinct cartoonish style, like you said, and then the thing that ended up striking me obviously was like, oh wow, you're like climbing on monsters and connecting bombs to them and jumping off and they're exploding, and you're walking through the muck and you have a big torch and you're sliding down sand dunes, and that looks really fun. And there's this.
Is this a cartoony Monster Hunter? Is that
right?
What's going
it's like
on
cartoony
here?
Monster Hunter, cartoony.
Because at the beginning of the
Dragon's
trailer,
Dogma.
he's dragging a monster and like drops it on the like rich man's table.
Yeah,
And then the very next thing is like that's a what's it called? The one with the poison neck. I can't remember.
a poison neck. I don't remember what it's called.
It's got it walks the same way. Jesus Christ! It looks like a specific Monster Hunter monster that I cannot remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not going to be gamekeeper at Waypoint.
God damn it!
There is. I don't quite know how to feel about the degree to which you are like a white dude killing tribal peoples, and even more so now that I remember this is not the first time I've seen this game. I'm linking you now the original or the earlier Little Devil Inside trailer that I saw years ago now. I think years ago. What is this? Yeah, this was 2015 when I first saw this.
Yeah.
And if you jump ahead to like 57 seconds, it is literally this adventurer and the old dude getting into a car being like chased by desert peoples on their ravenous looking dog creatures in a way that's playing on some very particular imagery. And who knows, maybe this is 5 years ago, right? This is 5 years ago. Some of this stuff is still very much in that trailer we saw today and did make me go like, are we okay? Are we really? And I'm hoping that this is a game where I'm not going to feel bad every 2 hours as we stumble onto whatever the new. In fact, those specific characters are those. There is a sequence where you're still being chased by those dog people. It's just that people on dogs, dog riding people. Maybe they're also running from the sandstorm. Who could say? I can't tell. But I really hope that they don't swing and miss on that aspect, because the depiction of brown people is really important to me. Beyond that concern, I think this looks incredible, and would love to play this game. The sense of adventure that it puts off, and the sense of place in all these different areas seems really cool. It feels like it's pulling in something like Below a little bit. Again, we said Monster Hunter. I think there's even some Dragon's Dogma here, so of course it has my attention. What else? Let's see. NBA 2K21. How do you feel?
Ready for this?
How do you feel about Sweat? How do you feel about Zion Williamson's Sweat?
I feel like very close to it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. It was just look at my man Sweat.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
She told us we weren't ready for it, but I fucking wasn't.
Shout out to Twitter user Manovsky article for sweat tracing.
Lol.
Sweat tracing. Yeah, that's right.
You know?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
New
Not wrong.
technology. Love
You ain't
it.
wrong.
There's a Pragmata also.
Yeah,
That was a
Pragmata, which had I think a lot of people were like, is this a Death Stranding? What is this? What's happening? And it turns out, no, it's not a Death Stranding, but I think it's a Capcom game. There's like a astronaut walking through the streets of New York, and there's a little girl, and there was like an animal that was like a robot cat that was projecting a holographic shell of a real cat, but you could still see the robot skeleton inside, which was kind of creepy. I don't know what that game is. That was just a here's a taste of tone.
It had a very Kojima feeling to it. I was surprised when it wasn't a Kojima game.
Yeah, definitely.
Even just the design of that suit felt like that's the way that the new logo or whatever, like mascot for Kojima Productions is. So
totally.
Yeah.
We skipped over a couple things. I am excited for Bug Snacks, the latest from
Bugs
Young Horses, the Octodad developer. That game reminds me specifically of like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which is like a puppet series, kind of like a horror comedy puppet web show from a few years back. You have to just go look up this trailer. I don't know what to talk about. Like
an Australian seal introduces us all to a series of talking fruits that are bugs, and the whimsy is strong in this one, but knowing the Octodad people, it comes from a real place of humor rather than trying to ape an aesthetic, the sort of the Steven Universe aesthetic that already works. I feel like when I saw the big long sub sandwich that had legs was when I was sold on it.
That's when I was like,
that guy was
lunch.
good.
I should have eaten lunch.
Shit.
Fuck, I fucked up.
Wait, lunch? It is 7:52 p.m.
No, I was saying when I saw it, that's what I thought.
Oh.
Now when I see it, I think, I should have fucking eaten lunch. Now it's time for dinner, and I should have eaten lunch.
I just opened up a dinner delivery service because I need to eat dinner.
There you go. I think that does it for what was there. I think, again, it's a...
Oh, and then the box.
The box, which we kind of hit the box. What are we gonna?
Yeah.
What are you gonna? It looks like the way
actually,
it does.
I think it's
Go ahead. Do you want to?
The thing about two models was
that's true.
interesting
That's
and
yes.
also terrifying to me because there's a digital only model of this console, which I hate, but also is the way that everything is going right now, where physical media is being phased out, and I expect the digital only model to be much cheaper than the one with the drive.
It will not be much cheaper because drives aren't that expensive.
No, but I think they're going to take a hit on it on purpose.
That will have to be a big hit because if it's more than $50, that's a big hit, right?
Yeah.
Like drives just aren't that expensive.
Yeah, but I just feel like they're trying to push this at this point because they want it, because they have more control over like licensing and like all that shit, right? Like their DR, like it's just the way that everything has gone on PC already.
What do you think that price looks like then?
No clue. I could say that they knock off 100,
600 for the but that's
something
the thing is like
that.
If the digital only version is 500, that's still a nightmare price.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna suck, but I do think that there's gonna be some pretty like larger than expected for what a drive costs. Price disparity between those two.
Also, there are lots of PS4 games I own on disc, or I don't own as many as I used to, as you know, maybe some people do, but that does now mean more if they're committing to, like they said in the Cerny thing, backwards compatibility for PS4 games, where there are plenty of those that I own that are only on disc. I've imported some Gundam games. I don't have those digitally. I'm not going to have those digitally. I would like to be able to play those. So in some ways, I hope that price gap is not so big as to be impossible for my budget in a very real way. I would like to be able to afford. I would like to be able to.
This is me taking the cynical read of those
two
models, basically. But
exactly. I also think it is kind of wild to kick it off right away with a model that's just like, that's it, we're done. But with discs, which is it's interesting. It is a changing time, and I do think if they were not committing to PS4 backwards compatibility, I would probably be way more interested in the digital only version of it. And maybe there's a price point. Maybe there's a price point where I go, okay, you know what? Whatever. I still have a PS4. If I want to play these games, I can hook up the PS4. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
But we'll see. I think all said, like I said, I think I'm with Gita and Rob, and I don't know, Cado, how you felt overall, but the kind of middling feeling of like, I want to see what these games, I want to see game play more than anything else. That's what gets me excited. But I will say that I'm happy for the mix of smaller and larger projects. Nothing here comes from, I guess there's a couple things here that felt like wider unknowns, like what do you call it? Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Like, that's not a developer we've heard of before. But otherwise, it feels like big indie or well-known indie and then big AAA. And that mix is and like kind of like middle ground, the Sumo Digital stuff, for instance. And that's better than. It's better than the Sad Dad Hour, which I think we may have thought was coming. But I'm just not someone who gets. I'm not going to get excited for something not being as bad as it could have been. I need something to really light a fire under me. But how about y'all? Any final thoughts on how this thing felt, or what your overall takeaways were?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I said what I said. I said what I said, Austin. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I wanted to be excited for this. I do have nostalgia. I feel like in many ways this was a presentation that was built for someone like me, but it just didn't hit right now. I do have nostalgia for a lot of these older PlayStation games, and I do just kind of want to vibe with some video games right now. I restarted Fire Emblem Three Houses because I just needed to find a hole to put my brain into in the evening sometimes. But I left this just feeling like, just a little underwhelmed, just really hoping for more of a spark. The only thing that made me really feel like, yeah, now we're gamers was Deathloop, where that just felt like a game I would love to play like immediately. But I didn't get enough of that moment from this presentation to really feel optimistic.
Here's hoping that will be that will show extended gameplay at the PC Gamer Show. That to me feels right for where that would happen. Because of where the immersive sims tend to live.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here for it in a real way. Rob, Cado.
Yeah.
Wow, the
Cado.
defeat in Cado's voice.
I
Was this
do
'cause
like.
we were mean about the controllers?
I think so.
Also, it's white. There's gonna be shit. I'm sorry. I can't keep shit clean,
That's true.
apparently.
That plastic may not wear
That is
well.
true.
I don't think it will.
Like, I've been known to
scared.
partake of a snack or two
Yeah,
during a gaming
Totally.
session.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that snack may have a dusting of little flavorful particles that ends up on my fingers.
Also,
I don't.
This is no longer a problem, but in my childhood, I remember consoles getting beat up just by placement and things being knocked over, and something about the fins on that thing,
they're
like
gonna break.
the plastic bits. It just does not look stable.
Mina's taken the kicking video game controllers off of the furniture. So
She's gonna have a hell of a time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she spiked a Xbox controller the other day, and now it always thinks it's going, like, it always thinks the sticks are thrown to the left. I can't use it anymore. That's the dog. But no,
Mina's too smart.
It is true. Like, she does realize that phones, for instance, distract people from adoring Mina, and so phones are enemies now too.
No.
I think one of the tough things about sort of these shotgun blasts of trailers that you get is it also really emphasizes aesthetic trends that are ongoing in parts of the game industry. And I think any one of these games may have a really distinctive character and may do something really interesting. But when you see a bunch of them, and then often accompanied by music that is trying to evoke similar emotions of, like, we're having a great time here, right, folks?
Yeah, in this big,
like,
colorful open space where you can ride on things and shoot a bow.
Right. And so I think, and I think that's kind of the issue, is that what PlayStation is still kind of selling here is this idea of, like, look at all these beautiful worlds we can visit. And I think if you're seeing them all back to back and you've sort of been keeping up with games through this generation, you're kind of like, yes, but no, like, that doesn't look like anywhere I haven't been before.
Right.
And I think that's kind of
and I know what I'm going to do when I get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Deathloop trailer again, which I think part of why it stands out is for what you just said, which is it does not look too much like those other things. It has a distinctive sound. It has a distinctive voice, literally.
And it literally tells you what you're going to be doing, and it doesn't sound like other stuff.
Also, this dude absolutely loads some nails in his gun, which is sick.
I do saw
just
really ripped. They're golden nails, and he just drops them into his gun. It rocks.
And how good is that conceit of like, no, this is it sounds like it's gonna be a run-based game, and it's like you got to cross off these 8 people in one go.
Yeah.
And by the way, someone's hunting you,
which
and
is Moon Crash, right? It's Moon Crash, and it might be. Is it? Do we know?
The collateral,
right? Yeah, it's Moon. The
end of that trailer implies that it's multiplayer, right?
Yeah, is this? Are they finally doing PvPvE?
I think.
Is this the Crossing? Did they make the Crossing finally? I'm here for it. The Crossing was a game that Arkane was making that got canceled, sadly, and was pretty exciting at a certain point. Anyway, in general, that's the other thing is I'm realizing now a lot of the Ghostwire Tokyo, is that what the game is called?
Yeah.
Hand magic stuff is less cool than the much blunter versions of it that you see here, of the lead assassin guy, like doing all sorts of like telekinetic like not slashes in the air with his hand that are slamming characters left and right down this hallway that look really, really good. Like Patrick was right when he said a lot of this stuff feels like it's from Dishonored. The blink mechanic is like very much the little hover circles. Don't care. It looks great. And an action-based version of that, I think, is something that immediately reads to me in a way that's very exciting, and is high concept in a cool way. Moon Crash action prey is fine by me.
And also, I think like as speedrunners and like video community members demonstrated with Dishonored had cool combat systems built into it. It's just its heart was a stealth game, right? Yeah. It was a game that its moral universe was if you go loudness too much, bad things happen in the world, gets put into the bad timeline. And so Dishonored was kind of this weird, like there's this big banquet table of like, look at all these ways you could just fuck people up. And then it was like, but don't you do it. And this game seems to be like, actually, go fuck these people up. Here, sprinkle some nails in your gun.
Yeah, and again, like it not for nothing, but 2 black voices means a lot to me right now. Those characters seem dope. Their outfits are sick. Their styles are incredible. This is the one that I'm. The other thing is that's technically it seems like this holiday game. So that's exciting for me. That's something that I can start looking forward to this holiday. Yes, it does in fact say Deathloop is Arkane's take on assassination multiplayer experience, seamlessly blending single player campaign with multiplayer drama. Players will experience the main story as Colt hunting down targets across the island of Blackreef to break the loop and earn his freedom. Players can also choose to take control of rival assassin Juliana, sneaking into another player's campaign to kill Colt and keep him imprisoned in the loop. The multiplayer experience is completely optional, and players can choose to have Juliana controlled by an AI within the campaign, which is the right way to do that. I'm
That's really, really cool.
This is very cool. I'm very here for this. Hell yeah. I'm into it.
Congrats to Arkane for winning E3.
Yeah, they did it. They won E3. It's fucked up, right? We would be in planes right now coming back. A year in a different version of this year.
I was so looking forward to what you guys do every E3, like
I know.
Getting in the house and seeing you guys.
Rob cooking for us.
I was gonna cook you guys Indian food. I was so excited.
I know. It's and then even when we thought, maybe E3 won't happen, but the world will be able to have, maybe we'll just do something from here. We'll fly, everyone into New York, and then we'll do an E3 in New York, like our own no.
Nothing.
Corona says no. And then also, right now there are lots of protests around, around Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Tony McDade and everything else that, like, I feel like the atmosphere at an E3 that had it happened would have been unbearable to some degree. Like the feeling of today being in the LA Convention Center where a week ago the National Guard was stationed would have just been exhausting. And so I don't know. Also, I was originally scheduled to go do a keynote at a game studies conference in Canada last week. And I was literally going to have to do a week in Canada, a week in, and then immediately a week in LA. And that would have been rough. So, in some ways, this world just carries much different burdens, much harder ones than that. I would have happily done that over what this year has been. But yeah, so all right, I think we're gonna take another break, and we're actually gonna break. But then Rob and Patrick and Cado are gonna come back. I might come back. I'm not sure. We'll talk off mic to talk about The Last of Us 2 and what Rob and Patrick have thought about that game. So we will be right back. I trust them if I'm not here to do the outro because they're trustworthy sorts. So BRB again.